Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we are making another sweater vest, but this time going back to my OG sweater vest pattern that I made, but I think I'm gonna make it like more full length because this is the one that I currently have, but it's like a little bit cropped and I kind of want to make one that's like, I don't know, the type of vibe you could wear with like a low-waisted pant or skirt and like have it kind of like line up better, if that makes any sense. I also am going to do like an informal pattern with this video because I think that sometimes it's helpful for more like advanced crocheters to have informal pattern videos, because if you're more of a beginner you can just go watch the tutorial, but if you're more advanced I'll just like explain it as I go and it'll be like totally manageable. So I'm using this Loops and Threads acrylic yarn. It's in the color Classic Gray, and I'm using a 5mm hook for this because I do think that like for some reason having the stitches sideways makes the gaps between stitches like not matter as much for some reason. And so like with this I did the same thing with 5mm hook and the panels are sideways and I love how it looks, so I'm just gonna do the same thing. For size reference, I did 20 rows of 35 stitches and then I did 2 panels of that for this length, and then obviously I will let you know how many I end up doing for this more like full length version, but I will stick with the like 20 rows wide because that fit pretty perfectly. It's just such like a simple pattern in the sense that like you're just doing 2 panels of double crochets, but it does turn out into like a very cute top. I think the one thing is I probably will stick with doing chains at the beginning of my rows simply because that's what I did with this one, and as much as I loved stack single crochets, I just want to make sure that I'm not making any changes that like might mess something up. I'm sure it wouldn't, but I just don't want to risk it. Okay, so this is the original version of this top, and the most important thing to make this like match the pattern the way I'm doing it is that your rows are sideways, not straight across. So we're basically working like back and forth this way to make our panel, and then making the second panel the exact same way, stitching them together along the sides so that when you wear it, your double crochets are going like side to side instead of up and down. And I do think that does make a big difference in like how it fits on you. So make sure when you're doing your rows, it'll work out like that. It honestly is pretty easy to remember because like you're just doing your double crochet rows, and then once you get to the end, that's when you're actually stitching it together, so you just have to remember to stitch it together on the right side. But yeah, so that's how it's looking. I'm gonna start my first row and I will show you how that goes, and then we'll just like plop back and forth between kind of just like vlogging how it looks and how it's working, and then giving you updates when you need them. Okay, so starting my first row, I am doing foundation double crochets. You technically can do chains and then double crochets into them, but I personally feel like it's way easier to stitch together when you have foundation rows at the end, because then like both sides of your panels have like a flat crocheted edge instead of a chain edge on one side. But do whichever one you prefer. Like I said, I had 35 rows in my first versions of this, but for this I'm going to get to that 35 and then like keep holding it up to see how much longer I want it to be than that. So I'm just going to work on this first row, figure out how many I need, and then we can continue on to our next rows. Okay, weirdly, I just happened to stop at 36 stitches, so I was like basically right at it. I do definitely think like these rows stretch more than they look like they do. Like this looks like it would be really cropped, but I definitely will need to add some more. I think I'm going to start with 10 and then I'm going to hold it up to myself and see how that looks. Okay, so this is 46 stitches. I kind of feel like it's still gonna be a little bit cropped, so I might go a little bit longer, like maybe just to 50. And basically the way that I just check is like I hold it up to myself, the top part like right at the top of my shoulder, and then just like laying the bottom down towards the bottom so I can see how long it's fitting. I think this will definitely be good, but yeah, you can see a little bit of what I'm doing, but yeah, I just hold the bottom down here and hold the top up at my shoulder and kind of just like guesstimate. You could technically measure if you want to, but I do feel like there's a little bit of like, you don't necessarily know how much it's going to stretch and all of that, so I'm sure there's ways to find that out, but I make it simple by just holding it up to myself. Okay, so then next what you're gonna do is literally just make rows and rows of these double crochets. So I will be going into my chains at the end of my rows because I feel like it makes a cleaner edge, but again, do what you would like to do. That's just what I like for this, because remember, the edge of this side right here is going to be at the top, like where your neck is, and at the bottom of the top. It's not going to be where the seam is. So you kind of do want this to be like a neater edge. And then you're basically just going to make these rows until it reaches like halfway across. Again, this is where I normally just measure it, like holding it up to myself. But if you make sure that it reaches from like the sides of you, like over here, but not towards the back, then it should pretty much work, because we're stitching it closed. We don't have ties, so it does have to be like a little bit more exact, but also it doesn't have to be like a skin tight top unless you want it to be. If so, then I would like measure it while like stretching it really tight. Otherwise, measure it while like stretching it a normal amount. So I'm literally just going to continue doing these rows until I've reached my very end, and then I will make my second one, and then we can stitch together and I can explain how I normally do that. I'm not sure if this is going to be a one-day project. It might span across a couple days, but either way, you're just making your 2 panels of double crochets if you're following along for the pattern, and then we will stitch together. I figured I would show you like what the difference is between my like cropped one and my longer one, but if you notice, like in this one, the stitches are really close next to each other because I just did them and I haven't worn it. In this, they're a little bit like stretched out, I guess. So I do think it's important to like recognize that it will like stretch a lot, and honestly I don't think it's going to stretch all the way to the edge of it, because when I'm wearing it there aren't gaps that big, but it probably will stretch to like here maybe, so it's definitely going to be full length where this one was really cropped. Yeah, back to crocheting. Oh my god. These are the vibes right now. Yes, I'm holding it down with my chin, but just like pulling it to the side, it's fitting perfectly, and it's like the perfect length. Like, yes, it's long, but like I have like mid-rise pants on right now under my sweatshirt, and like it's going slightly further than that, so I think that's perfect. And it's looking very cute. Okay, I just like had moved on to the second panel, forgetting to like say what I was doing, but like I said earlier, I literally just make a second identical panel. So if you didn't count like your number for your first row, then count it right now so you can recreate it for your second panel, and then just make the same number of rows as well. So just like identical number of stitches per row, identical number of rows, and yeah, just make that, and then you will be ready to stitch it together. Hello you guys, I'm at Michael's and I'm just here to pick up one thing of yarn for the sweater vest because I'm like getting to the end of my, or like I'm kind of like 3/4 through my second panel, but I'm getting to the end of the yarn. So I was like, let's just get another one just in case. And then I also have this like rewards coupon thing where you get 20% off and it lasts until May 30th. And I thought it ended last month. So I'm like, might as well just like get another thing of yarn just for fun. But I'm gonna try to get like either something I normally don't get or something that goes well with stuff I already have. But yeah, we'll just pop in, grab that, and then hopefully quickly get through it because I always get so distracted in Michael's, but we'll try to stay focused today. Here we go, it's classic gray. And then, honestly, this is kind of cute. This is cute, but I just made something with purple. And this is also very cute, but I have stuff in that color. I don't know. How do I choose? This is really cute and not that similar to stuff I already have. So maybe I'll get this, but I don't know what I would make with it though. Like this is pretty. Yeah, maybe we'll get this. I might get this instead and get two because I also want to make a poncho for a tutorial. Oops. Okay, honestly, that's pretty good restraint to only get like one more thing that I meant to, and it's for like an intentional project. So I'm happy with that, to be honest. Okay, sorry for this crazy angle, but I have 3 loops and threads impeccable yarn, acrylic, wait for, this one's the color like Erin, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, and then I have the classic gray for a project, and then I just have like 2 of these beige ones, and so those ones are gonna be for like a poncho, I think. But yeah, pretty successful if you ask me. Okay, I'm back home and I'm gonna work on my second panel, and I honestly think I'm gonna try and just lock it in and finish it because my friend's coming over to have lunch and watch a movie, and so I think easily in the couple hours that the movie is, like, I should be able to finish it. But at the same time, I also want to focus on the movie, so we'll see what happens. But either way, I'm pretty sure I'll be able to finish today. I do need to get like a lot of homework done though, because I didn't do any homework over the weekend, so it might end up being like do most of it but not finish. But either way, making a lot of progress, and then very soon we'll be able to stitch it together, and then that's literally it, which is why I love this pattern so much, because it's like you like do your 2 panels and then you're basically done, because it takes like 10 minutes to stitch together. Like, it's so easy. But yeah, that's the plan for today. Okay, so I ended up finishing my second panel, so I'm going to move on to stitching it together. So basically you want to put both of your panels on top of each other like how I have them, and they're both facing the way that is actually lining up with like which side's the top, which side's the bottom, and then these are like the armholes, that's like the side of the top. Then I saw my yarn attached here, otherwise tie your yarn on in the top corner and make some single crochets to like make your neck hole. I was looking back at my other one and I have 5 single crochets and 1 slip stitch to like make 1 armhole, and I'm gonna try that and then try it on, see if it works. But yeah, basically just do your single crochets or slip stitches or whatever to attach this side, and then remember that at the end we're gonna have to turn it inside out, so like put your good side on the inside facing each other and have your bad side here. Okay, that's 5. So I'm gonna give myself some extra end and cut it off. And then on the other side, do my 5 stitches the exact same way. And then I gave myself a ton of end on this side too, and I'm gonna cut it off. And then now I'm just gonna try it on, and what I normally look for is like literally just, is it fitting over my head and is it far enough over? Because you could have the possibility of it going over as far as you want, but then it doesn't fit over your head, or you could have it like too wide and you want it closer. So you just kind of have to figure out that balance. So I'm gonna try on and see how it's looking, and then I will let you know what I'm thinking. And then after that is done, we will just like finish that part off, and then we can make the armholes, which is essentially the same concept, like going up as far as you think you'll need, trying it on, making sure you can fit your arm through, and that it's not like too far down or too far up. So let's go try it on. Okay, so this is how it's looking. Obviously, looks a little crazy now with the outsides not being stitch closed, but right now we're looking at the sleeves, and I personally feel like it needs to be just a little bit further over. I think I'm still gonna be able to get it over my head, even if I go a little bit further. So maybe I'll do like 3 more stitches on both sides or something like that. Lengthwise, it's looking really good, and I'm really excited. But yeah, we'll just take it in a little bit more, and then we can do the sides. Okay, so just going a couple more stitches over. Still with single crochets, except usually my last stitch will be a slip stitch. And then the same thing on the other side. Okay, and then we're gonna try it on again, just to make sure it's all working, and then we can like cut it off. Okay, I like that so much better. It is a little bit tight to put on, but obviously it works if I can get it on. So I think that's good. I'm just gonna cut it off there and then work on the arms. All right, so just chaining 1 and cutting it off now, or technically I don't have to cut it off, that's just a really long end. And same with the other side. Okay, and then now I'm gonna rotate it so that I can like put my yarn on the bottom corner. So like this is where we're just working, going to the bottom corner, tying on my yarn. And then basically doing the same thing, making these single crochets until I've reached the length that I feel like will be good. On my other one, I had 15 stitches left at the top, so I think I'm gonna do something similar to that. Okay, and then just to make it easiest, I'm gonna do the same thing, cut off and reattach on my other side before trying it on, so I can check both sides at once. Okay, and then just cutting off my extra end here, and I will go try it on. Okay, so this is how we're looking. It like literally perfectly fits for my sleeve, so I think I am gonna leave it there, and then I'll just chain 1 and cut it off. I don't even think I'll do my normal slip stitch one. If I do, I'll just like take out a single crochet and then add the slip stitch to replace it, because this is like the exact spot I need it at. But yeah, these are the vibes. After that, we just have to turn it inside out and like weave in the ends and all the boring stuff. But yeah, we're basically done. Okay, so as I said, now I'm going to move on and like finish off this section. I obviously am lucky to have my like almost like cheat sheet of having already made some of these that were just like shorter, because it's still the same like concept. So I can just like use those measurements, and I just did like the exact same thing. But when I originally was making it, I just was doing it a couple times and trying it on, making sure it fit, and then it will work out pretty well. You just gotta use a little bit of like measurements, trial and error, and then it'll work. So now is when I should weave in my ends, but I don't want to right now, so I'm just going to turn it inside out so I can show you what the seams look like. It just becomes like a clean edge like this, so it doesn't like stick out when you turn it inside out like this. And that's the arms. So yeah, it ends up looking really clean, really nice. And yeah, we're basically done. I honestly don't think I'm gonna weave in my ends today because I'm just not in the mood to weave in ends right now. But this is basically the final result. You just saw what it looks like on, but I will put in another clip of me wearing it like right side out and all everything looking normal. And yeah. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope the pattern was helpful for anyone that wanted to make it along with me, and that it was just as entertaining as a vlog. And if you have any questions for the pattern, either let me know down below or check out the tutorial, because like I said, that's way more in-depth than this was. And I love how this top turned out. I'm so excited to be able to wear it. Make sure to check out my Depop for crochet stuff I'm selling. And otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye! This side too. Lengthwise,